Hi folks, this video is to review what you folks will need to turn in for your projects. That is due on November 6th, Wednesday by midnight, which as of the making of this video is tomorrow night. You folks will be given 2 additional days to turn your project in late, albeit with a 5 point deduction for each day late, for a maximum of 10 points deducted. The final last day I will be accepting projects is this Friday, November 8th by 11:59 p.m. or basically midnight. After that, I will not accept any late submissions and you will receive a 0 for the project. So either make sure you get the project in by tomorrow night, November 6th, or at the latest by November 8th, which is Friday night. Okay, let's jump into what you folks will need to submit. If you folks go to the Illustrator class website and scroll down to character illustration requirements, you folks will be uploading a zipped folder containing the deliverables or files below through the UH file drop system. If you click on this link, you'll get this page, the UH file drop page. You use your UH email to log in and submit your project. Okay? Make sure your name is on the zipped folder. So, for example, johndoe.zip, that's what you'll be uploading through this website. You folks don't really have to email me the link that the website produces. I automatically get an email notification from the UH file drop site whenever you upload a file to me. So don't worry too much about sending me an extra email. If you folks do, that's fine, but you don't really have to. In the zip folder, you should have 2 files: your work file, which is the Adobe Illustrator file with an extension of .ai, and a PDF of your illustration. I'll show you folks how to create that if you don't already know. Now, the size of your submission should be 8 inches by 10 inches or 10 inches by 8 inches, depending if you're drawing in portrait or landscape. And I'll show you folks that in a second as well as how to create your PDF. Both of your submissions should just have your name. So johndoe.ai, johndoe.pdf. Okay? Now, here's the project rubric, what you folks will be graded on. And to go over your project rubric here, you folks already did the character sheet sketch or character sketch that you folks submitted earlier, about a month ago, 3 weeks ago or so. That's worth 10 points. Most of you folks did that. Now, what I want you folks to really concentrate on is the technical aspect of the project. Specifically, these 4 items, they are worth 10 points each. And as you folks may have realized with the Photoshop project, 10 points is worth a grade, a letter grade. So missing any one of these 4 items, you already dropped 1 letter grade. So each of these items is weighed very heavily, okay? 1 letter grade each. So make sure you cover all 4 items. For the rest of the items in the concept and design section, I can be a little bit more flexible with the grading, and the lowest you could get is 6 points, okay, instead of 0. So I would concentrate mostly on this part right here, getting these 4 items done. And at the very, if you just did fair for all of these, you could still get 30 points out of 50 for these, right? And if you get all of these, you get 40 points. So if you also did the character sketch, you got 10 points. So this section alone is 50. And even if you get 6 points for all of these, you'll get 30, which will be equal to 80 points, which is a B, okay? But miss one of these 4, and you folks could be in trouble. So really make sure you cover all four of these items here, okay? And I'm going to show you that right now in Illustrator. So let's switch over to Illustrator. All right. Now for you, some of you folks may be in the Essentials layout, like so. I tend to use the Essentials Classic layout. So if my layout looks a little bit different than you folks, that's probably the reason why. I'm in Essentials Classic. Okay, now to set up your file, you go File, New, and in a new document window, what you want to do is make sure this is set to inches. And what you're going to do is make sure that your width and height are either 10 by 8 or 8 by 10, depending on which way you want to draw your illustration. If you want to draw your illustration in portrait mode, so it'll be up, it'll be tall, top to bottom, versus landscape mode, which will be left to right. This will determine, so it's either going to be 8 by 10 or 10 by 8, depending which way you folks want to draw out your illustration. Once you get these three items set, inches, and either 10 by 8 or 8 by 10, click Create. Okay, so as you can see, this is a landscape illustration. And to cover each of these four items here, I'm going to demonstrate to you folks right now how you guys can do that in just a few easy steps. First off, I'm going to create a background for my illustration here. I'm going to use the rectangle tool located right here, and I'm going to draw a rectangle that goes past the outside of the canvas, so like so. Okay, don't worry about any of your drawing that goes off of the canvas. Okay, when you save your PDF, your final PDF, only what is on the canvas will get shown. Any part of the drawing that goes off of the canvas will not be shown, so don't worry if you go off the canvas. Okay, now that I have my box here, I'm going to add a gradient to it. Okay, to do that, I'm going to click on my gradient panel. If you don't have your gradient panel up, all you have to do is go up to Window and click on Gradient, and that'll help, or that'll bring up your gradient panel for you. Once you have your gradient panel up, all you got to do is click on this box right here, and Illustrator automatically adds the gradient for you. Now, of course, I don't want my gradient going this way. I want it going up and down. So first off, I'm going to change the angle. Okay, clicking this drop down arrow here, I'm going to choose 90-degree angle. Oh, I don't want the dark portion on the top. I want the dark portion on the bottom and the light portion on the top. So I'm going to switch up this, clicking on this down arrow or drop arrow. Again, I'm going to choose -90, which is the opposite. Okay, so that looks good. Now I'm going to change the colors of the gradient. So all you have to do, here's my two colors of the gradient, white and black. All you have to do is choose one of the colors and double click on it, and you get this pop-up window. You can go to the swatches. You can switch between the palette here, color palette, and swatches. So I want a darker blue. I'm trying to create a sky here. So what I'm going to do is go with a darker blue for the bottom color. Probably this. Oh, that's the lighter color, sorry. That's a lighter blue. And I'm going to customize the lighter blue by clicking on this palette here and moving a slider towards this color, which will be a lighter baby blue. Okay, now I'm going to change the black to a darker blue by double clicking on it. Come to the swatches and choose this dark blue here and manipulate it by clicking on a palette and moving the slider a little bit higher. Okay, once I have those two colors done, I can also move this middle slider. I want more of the white to show lower, so I'm going to move this middle slider towards the darker color. I got more of the sky showing there. Okay, so right there I just created my sky, which I'll rename on the layer here by double clicking and typing in sky. Remember, you want every layer named. That's 10 points. So just creating that background right there, I already took care of the gradient requirement. I also for now I've taken care of all layers named. I only have one layer. Okay, now for the transparency and raster effect. Okay, I'm going to create some simple clouds right now. For that, what I'm going to do is use the eclipse tool. Okay, and I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to rename this layer 2 as clouds by double clicking on the title and changing it to clouds. I'm also going to lock the sky layer so I don't accidentally select it by mistake. Now right now, before I start drawing out, I have to make changes to my colors here. I don't want a stroke, so I'm going to click on the stroke color icon here to bring it forward. And then I'm going to click on no color so that there will not be an outline stroke. Then I'm going to click on the fill color and I'm going to choose white so that I have a fill color of white. So now with my eclipse tool activated, I'm going to draw out some clouds. Okay, so I'm just going to draw out a whole bunch of white circles, overlapping white circles, like so, and one more. Maybe I'll move using the directional tool. I'll move this one over a little bit, and if I click off to the side here, so there's my cloud. Now what I want to do is marquee select or draw a selection box using my directional tool. Left mouse click and drag a box around all the items here, and I'm going to combine them all into one shape. I didn't really cover this in any of the videos, but if you folks go to the class notes, which are located here, the lecture notes, you can download both lecture notes PDFs, and it's located in there. And it's the Pathfinder panel, okay, which is right here for me. If you folks don't have it, go Window, Pathfinder. I'm going to merge all of these circles into one shape. Okay, so with all of the circles selected, I'm going to click on this here. This particular icon is called merge. And now I have one cloud right there. All right. Now if I want to make more than one cloud, I'll show you folks how to do that in a second. Now, what I'm going to do is a raster effect. Okay. Now a raster effect can be done by first selecting the item you want to apply the raster effect to. In this case, it's our cloud. I'm selecting the cloud using my direct select tool. Then going up to effect, and under Photoshop effects, all of these are raster effects. Okay, so Photoshop effects, I'm going to choose blur, Gaussian blur as my raster effect. I'm gonna leave the blur at 2 pixels and click OK. And not too much of a blur, so I'm gonna undo that blur by hitting Command Z or Control Z for you Windows users. I'm gonna go Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur once more. I'm gonna up the blur to, let's try 4. I'm gonna type in 4 here and click Preview and click OK. Let's click. You notice it's starting to come blurry. The edges are starting to come blurry. If I want a stronger blur, let's undo that again and then come up to Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Let's try 7 and hit OK. Now if you click off to the side, there we go. We got a nice blur on the cloud. Okay, so right there I just took care of the raster effect. Now to take care of the last item, which is transparency, all I have to do is click on this cloud here, come to opacity. Opacity and transparency are the same thing. Okay, so by turning down the opacity, let's go with about 75%. Click off to the side. Now the cloud has both the raster effect, which is the Gaussian blur, and a 75% transparency on it. Or I should say 25% transparency on this. This is 75% visible. Right, folks? So both of my layers are named. So just doing those simple steps right there, all layers named. Of course, you're going to have to name every layer that you have in your Illustrator project. So once your character comes up, or once you start drawing out your character, you folks will have to name the parts of your character. If the character has a hat, you have to name that layer hat, head, arms, legs, clothing, whatever. Okay, so name each of your layers. You saw how I created a transparency, the gradient, and the raster effect just by doing the background for the project. I took care of all 4 items with just this right here. Okay, now if you folks want to make copies of the cloud, all you got to do is select the cloud like so, hold down your Option or Alt key, left mouse click and drag a copy out, and you can do it as much times as you want. Holding down your Option key every time you select and make a copy. Alright, folks, and remember, as I said before, don't worry about your drawing going off the canvas. Anything that is outside of this black line right here will not be shown. So for this cloud, when we make the final PDF, only this portion of the cloud on the inside of this black line will be seen. Alright, so I'll put one over here and one up here, just so you folks can see later on. I'm gonna just add another layer here to create the ground plane. I'm gonna go back to my rectangle tool and draw a square. Change that to, let's go to swatches here, click on the green, right? So I now have my ground right there. And of course I could always make a sun using the ellipse tool. Let me change this or rename this ground. Add another layer by clicking on the add a layer button. I'm going to title this sun. And if I hold down my shift key as I draw out my ellipse, or while I use my ellipse tool, drag out a shape, I get a perfect circle. Of course, I'm going to change the color or the fill color to a gradient by clicking on my gradient and then clicking on a gradient button here. Of course, I don't want it to be blue, it's going to be yellow and orange. And I don't want a linear gradient, I want a circular or radial gradient. So I'm going to click on a radial gradient button there. And then of course I'm going to change my colors. So double clicking on a lighter blue here, I'm going to change that to yellow. And I'm going to double click on the dark blue and change that to orange. All right. Now if I want to swap the yellow and the orange positions, all I got to do is slide the yellow this way and slide the orange this way, and that automatically swaps the color positions. And of course I can always, change the middle slider to expose more orange or less orange, right? So right there I have my sun, and this should be enough to get you folks started. You can just remember, if you don't want to accidentally select one of these items by mistake, lock off each layer as you complete it and start a new layer to draw your character or whatnot. All right. Now comes time for saving your project. Once you're done drawing out your project and you want to save, remember, come up to File, Save As. You're going to name your project your name. So in this case, I'm going to use John Doe. And the format should be Adobe Illustrator.ai. Okay. Choose wherever you want to save it to. Click Save. Don't worry about any of this. Just click OK. And you should have your file right here. Yourname.ai. Okay, that's the first part done. Now, remember, we have a second file. So yourname.ai, that's your work file. Now you're going to save a PDF, Acrobat PDF. To do that, you're going to come up to File, Save As. It's already named John Doe. You're going to change the format to Adobe PDF right here. Click on that. So now you have johndoe.pdf. Choose where you want to save it to. Click Save. Don't worry about any of these items here. Just go ahead and click Save PDF. And you have your actual PDF. So if you double click on it, you open up a PDF of your drawing. And remember what I said, anything on the outside of your canvas, so your canvas is represented by this black line here. Whatever is on the inside of your black line will be seen in the PDF. Whatever is on the outside of that black line, so anything past this black line and out here, will not be seen. So as you can see here, the clouds get cropped off, the sky gets cropped off, and so does the ground that goes past this black line. So don't worry about drawing off the canvas, folks. Go ahead and do whatever you folks need to do to draw off canvas. Once you create your PDF, this is what you'll be left with. Okay. All right. So remember, folks, make sure you guys cover all 4 items here in the technical part of your rubric. Very important. 10 points each. So that's, missing one of these is already, you're down to 30 points and whatnot. Even if you get everything else excellent, 50 points, 60 points. Miss one of these, you're down to 90 points already. Miss two, down to 80, so on and so forth. So before you even worry about these items, make sure that you guys get transparency, gradient, and raster effect. If any of you folks have any questions and you folks would like to for me to explain anything, feel free to hit me up on an email. I'll be checking my email frequently from this point until tomorrow at midnight. If you folks have any questions about the different tools, and if folks feel that I didn't cover it in any of the videos here, there's a bunch of videos on YouTube that you folks can access, or you folks could also download the lecture notes. The lecture notes have a lot of information. There's 34 pages on the first one and 37 pages on the second one, but they give you all the information you need for all the different tools. Okay, so make sure you folks take advantage of the notes if you folks are having issues with anything. And like I said, just email me and I'll be more than happy to help you folks out. So good luck with your folks Illustrator project, and I'll see you folks later.